It was February 17th, 2003. An ordinary Monday morning in the diamond district of Antwerp in Belgium, where merchants were about to open their businesses the usual way and get back to their daily routine. Nobody thought the day wasn't going to be any different. But unknowingly, a group of professional thieves who go by the name of School of Turin had successfully robbed the impenetrable vault below the Diamond District building. Monday blues were about to come true for Antwerp Police of Belgium, who were responsible for supervising the Diamond neighborhood, a center where security wasn't just a chore but an art. And a heist that wasn't just a normal heist, but the heist of the century. A heist that will go down in history as the biggest heist of all time. So much so that it will be mentioned even in the Guinness Book of World Records. Not just gold or diamonds, but property worth more than $100 million was stolen. A brilliant plot and seamless execution had taken a lot. But it seems all it takes to bring down years of planning is nothing but a salami sandwich. Who would have imagined that a heist involving millions of diamonds could be foiled by just a bag of garbage? But this isn't just the story of stolen diamonds, it is the master orchestration of Leonardo Notarbartolo and his team. This is the story of the heist of the century. This is Antwerp, the historic city of Belgium. Here, amidst a labyrinth of narrow streets, lies a district that doesn't just trade in diamonds, it breathes them. This is known as the Antwerp Diamond District, a place where billions of dollars worth of diamonds pass through each year, representing over 80% of the world's rough diamonds. It's a district that thrives on discretion, a place where security is not just a practice, but an art form. With over 63 video cameras covering the entire three-block district and private military personnel deployed by the Belgium authorities, stealing anything from here is next to impossible. At the epicenter of this glittering world of diamonds stood the Antwerp World Diamond Center, a fortress-like building that's divided into three blocks. The A block, the B block, and the C block. And below 2 stories of the B block is the impenetrable Diamond Center Vault. The vault is the heart of the Diamond District, both literally and metaphorically, due to its location and the trust of so many diamond traders and businessmen. It's stored over millions of dollars worth of diamonds, government bonds, different currencies, bricks of gold, and various jewelry. The vault itself is a marvel of security engineering and has 10 layers of protection. It got an external camera outside the door recording 24 hours a day, a combination dial on the door with over 100 million possible combinations. A key lock which can only be opened by a specific custom-designed foot-long key. A 3-ton solid steel door which can withstand up to 12 hours of continuous drilling, but it wouldn't matter as it also has an inbuilt seismic sensor to detect vibrations and would trigger an alarm if it detects any vibration. If somehow someone manages to get past this and opens the door, there are 2 metal plates on the door and wall that create a magnetic field. But if the door gets open, then the magnetic field would break, which would trigger another alarm. Inside the vault door, there's a steel grate, which requires another key to open. Once you get past this, there's an internal camera inside, which is also recording 24 hours a day, followed by a light sensor, which would trigger if it notices any light source, and finally, an infrared sensor, which would trigger another alarm if it detects any motion and rise in vault's temperature due to body heat. Upstairs in the main lobby, security forces are on constant alert, ready to descend with automatic weapons at the first alarm. Having such high level of security protection, no thief or crew in the world would even attempt to pull the unthinkable. But it didn't stop one person from having a crack at it, literally. It was the fall of 2000. A middle-aged man walks into the Antwerp World Diamond Center and inquires about renting an office space inside the building. His name is Leonardo Notarbartolo and portrays himself as a diamond merchant hailing from the city of Turin in Italy. His demeanor exuded confidence and professionalism, traits essential for anyone seeking to establish a foothold in this epicenter of the diamond trade. As he discussed renting out the office space, he carefully chose his words, weaving a convincing narrative of his experience in the diamond industry. To the building manager, he was just another businessman, eager to join the throngs of traders within these hallowed walls, and agreed to rent out the office space for 25,000 francs or $700 a month. Over the coming months, Notarbartolo blended in by trading diamonds with other traders and gained trust and reputation in the diamond district. He bought small stones, paid cash, dressed well, and cheerfully mangled linguistic expressions. By renting out the office space, it allowed him to have 24 hours access to the Diamond Center building and also kept a security deposit box inside the vault. Talking about Notarbartolo, he was in his early 50s, a professional thief for life, having pulled off dozens of successful heists. His journey into the world of thievery wasn't born out of necessity, but a calling he discovered at the tender age of 6 when he stole around 5,000 lira, or $8 and a bottle of milk from a dozing milkman. From stealing from his teachers in elementary school to stealing cars during his teenage years, his life was a crescendo of increasingly daring heists. By his 20s, he had honed his craft to an art, studying his targets with an almost academic rigor. He followed jewelry dealers around the city to learn their routines and selected his targets best suited to him. Once he knew the targets better than they did, he struck and got away with loads of precious gems and jewelry. By his late 30s, he started organizing heists with other thieves. He frequently visited the Antwerp diamond district, where he would sell the stolen goods by dismantling the jewelry pieces and selling each stone individually. A short trip which he took every other month. It was a warm summer of 2001 in Hovenierstraat, the main street of the Diamond District. Here, Notarbartolo was sipping an espresso in a coffee shop. It was a cramped, narrow cafe with a half-dozen small tables, but from the corner by the window, Notarbartolo could look out on the epicenter of the world's diamond trade. During business hours, he could see Hasidic men wearing broad-brimmed hats hurried past with satchels locked to their wrists. Armored cars idled tensely while burly couriers with handguns wheeled away small black suitcases. As he was about to finish his espresso, a question arose in his mind. Where would all these gems be locked up during the night? The answer was obvious, the impenetrable vault below the Diamond Center building, as he too kept his stash in the same vault. As he returned to his work routine, he found himself unable to shake off the thought that clung to his mind like glue. In the days and weeks that followed, he meticulously envisioned all possible scenarios for stealing the precious gems and jewelry from inside the vault. While the prospect of money was certainly a motivating factor, the thrill of achieving the impossible further fueled his ambitions. One fine evening, Notarbartolo decided to take action on his plan and began scouting for crew members to join him. It took him months to recruit the perfect team, each skilled in their own unique way to execute this daring heist. All this meticulous planning led to the formation of the School of Turin, a group of professional thieves, each a master in their own specialized field. The so-called School of Turin consisted of 5 members: Leonardo Notarbartolo, the ringleader who put forth this team of extraordinary thieves, the architect behind this incredible heist; Speedy, a lifelong friend of Notarbartolo and having worked alongside him in many successful heists; the third being the Monster. He was called that because he was monstrously good at everything he did. He was an expert lockpicker, electrician, mechanic and a driver, and had enormous physical strength. Everybody was scared of him, which was another reason for his nickname. The next is the King of Keys, a quiet old man who was considered the best key forger in the entire world. The guy was tasked with forging the infamous foot-long key required to open the vault's door. And finally, the Genius, a specialist in electrical circuits and alarms. His job was to reroute the alarm signal wires and disable them. Finally, after getting his crew together, Notarbartolo rented an abandoned warehouse in the outskirts of the city of Antwerp. Slowly, the team bought in equipment and necessary items required for the heist. To successfully rob something so big, you need to know every single detail about the target. In this scenario, the target was the infamous vault. Although Notarbartolo had entered the vault numerous times, he had never paid close attention to the details, as his visits were primarily for depositing or retrieving his valuables. Another challenge was how to convey these details to his team. Despite being the best in their respective fields, rough estimates wouldn't suffice to pull off this job. Also, the vault was custom-made and unique to the Diamond Center, making it impossible to find an exact replica. As a master of his craft, Leonardo boldly undertook the task of reconnoitering the entire blueprint of the plan. The following day, Notarbartolo casually walked into the Diamond District with a pen poking out from his breast pocket. At first glance, it appeared to be a mere highlighter, but its cap concealed a miniaturized digital camera capable of storing 100 high-resolution images. Although photography was strictly prohibited in the district, no one noticed Notarbartolo's discreet pen camera. He began his reconnaissance at the police surveillance booth on Schupstraat, a street leading into the heart of the district. Behind the booth's bulletproof glass, 2 officers were monitoring the area. The district's 3 main blocks were teeming with video cameras, seemingly covering every inch of street and sky. The booth also housed the controls for retractable steel cylinders designed to restrict vehicular access to the district. As Notarbartolo strolled by, he discreetly started taking pictures. He was en route to the Diamond Center, where the building had its own private security force operating a nerve center at the entrance. Access was restricted by metal turnstiles, and visitors were questioned by guards. Notarbartolo effortlessly passed through all of this by flashing his tenant ID card. All the while, his camera discreetly captured pictures of everything. He then took the elevator 2 stories down towards the antechamber of the vault. The vault door was kept open to have easier access to the vault during business hours. However, Notarbartolo had no plans to force entry during the day and then fight his way out. Any break-in would need to occur at night. After the guards had secured the vault, cleared the building, and sealed the entrances with steel roll gates. During the quiet midnight hours, no patrols were conducted inside, as the guards trusted the technological defenses. After returning to the warehouse, the crew developed the images and began analyzing them. The pen camera had successfully captured 9 of the 10 defensive layers of the vault, with the only missing piece being the vault's combination code. Deciphering the code the old-fashioned way could take all night, risking the plan's failure. They needed to know the code, which had nearly 100 million possible combinations. Furthermore, the Diamond Center building was equipped with sensors on every entry point, including windows, to prevent thefts. Any break-in attempt would trigger an alarm. To overcome this hurdle, Notarbartolo took a risk and gave his tenant ID card to Genius. Disguised as a cleaner, Genius used the card to enter the Diamond Center. His task was to maintain his cover throughout the day and was supposed to hide in the building as night fell. Gradually, the diamond merchants and workers began exiting the building. After the last person exited the Diamond Center, the security personnel began their routine check, eventually locking down the building. As the night fell and the security started to loosen up, Genius came out from his hiding spot and made his way towards the vault. He was aware that only one guard would be monitoring the surveillance camera, making it easier for him to get past and navigate straight down to the vault's antechamber. They kept the lights off down below, but Genius knew how many steps to walk forward and placed a small fingertip-sized video camera next to the recessed ceiling lights. He did this so the light's glare would obscure the camera's view from below. Additionally, he placed a broadcast receiver inside a fire extinguisher in a nearby storage room, as the camera would send signals through and it would be picked by the receiver's antenna. He precisely positioned the video camera so it could capture a sharp image when the security guard entered the vault's combination code. After setting up the camera and extinguisher, he returned to his hiding spot to wait until morning and went out the front gate by blending in with the crowd in the morning hours. The next day at 7 a.m., the security guard came out of the elevator and approached the vault. He was right on schedule and began to spin the combination wheel. With each spin, the combination came to rest on a number. After dialing the complete combination, he inserted the vault's key. The camera recorded a clear image of the combination before the key disappeared into the keyhole. Now the crew had all the necessary information, including the combination code and details about the alarm systems. The only task remaining was to choose the right day for the heist. It was Thursday, the 13th of February, 2003. A large convoy of police cars were escorting an armoured truck through the heart of Antwerp with a police helicopter up in the skies acting as their eyes. The escort bristled with firepower. They belonged to a special diamond delivery protection unit, and each cop carried a fully automatic weapon. Their cargo, De Beers' monthly shipment of diamonds worth millions of dollars. To put things into perspective, De Beers is the world's largest diamond mining company. In 2003, it controlled 55% of the global diamond supply. Leonardo Notarbartolo recognized it was the right moment to strike, as the vault would be filled to its brim with unpolished diamonds from De Beers. The date he selected was Saturday the 15th, because he knew that most of the diamond merchants were Jewish and wouldn't be in the district on a Saturday night. Additionally, being the weekend meant fewer security personnel on duty, reducing the risk of getting caught. This timing also provided Notarbartolo and his team with the entire weekend to execute their escape smoothly and erase any traces of their involvement well before the hustle of the business week resumed on Monday. One day before the heist, Leonardo was buzzed into the vault alone. Although a camera closely monitored his every move, the security guard on the other end had grown accustomed to Notarbartolo's routine visits to his safe deposit boxes. As he approached his designated deposit box, he took a step to his left and retrieved a small aerosol can of women's hairspray. With precision, he applied a thin coat of transparent, oily film to the infrared sensor. This clever maneuver effectively obstructed the sensor from detecting any changes in the room's temperature, and the alarm went off only if it sensed both heat and motion. On the night of the 15th, Notarbartolo and his crew rented a car and drove along a road that ran alongside the diamond district. Notarbartolo remained in the car, taking on the role of the getaway driver, while his crew exited the vehicle, each carrying a large duffel bag. They proceeded to break into a rundown office building. Guiding them through this operation was the genius, who directed them to the rear of the building and into a private garden that bordered the back of the Diamond Center. Remarkably, this was one of the few spots within the district not under video surveillance. To access the Diamond Center, the genius had stashed a ladder there earlier. He climbed it to reach a small terrace on the second floor. This terrace was monitored by a heat-sensing infrared detector. However, the genius approached it cautiously from behind, holding a large homemade polyester shield. The polyester, with its low thermal conductivity, effectively blocked his body heat from reaching the sensor. Placing the shield directly in front of the detector, he ensured that it wouldn't register any thermal changes. The balcony was now safe. While the rest of the team scrambled up, the genius skillfully disabled an alarm sensor on one of the balcony's windows. One by one, the thieves climbed through the window, descended into a dimly lit stairwell, and made their way to the darkened vault antechamber. They covered the security camera outside the vault with a black plastic bag and switched on the lights. The imposing vault door loomed in front of them, and the building remained eerily quiet, with no alarms having been triggered. The genius pulled a custom-made slab of rigid aluminum out of his bag and applied heavy-duty double-sided tape to one side. He then attached it to the two plates that controlled the magnetic field on the right side of the vault door and proceeded to unscrew their bolts. With the magnetic plates now loosened, the sticky aluminum held them together, allowing the genius to pivot them aside and tape them to the antechamber wall. The magnetic field remained unbroken. Next, the King of Keys retrieved the foot-long replica key, but before using it, he wanted to verify something. In Notarbartolo's videos, the guard typically visited a utility room just before opening the vault. As the crew searched the room, they discovered a significant security oversight. The original vault key was left hanging inside. The King of Keys inserted the original key into the keyhole and waited while the genius entered the combination they had gathered from the video. A moment later, the genius nodded in confirmation. The monster turned off the lights, as they didn't want to trigger the light detector in the vault when the door opened. In the darkness, the King of Keys turned the key and rotated the metal handle. The bolts securing the door retracted and it swung open heavily. Speedy's task at the time was to maintain contact with Notarbartolo, but there was no cell phone reception in the vault. So he dashed upstairs to where he could get a cellular signal and dialed his old friend. The only words he uttered were, "We're in," before hanging up. Notarbartolo placed his phone back on the dashboard. He sat inside the rented car with a clear view of the front of the Diamond Center about a block and a half away. His police scanner remained quiet as he calmly sipped his cold coffee and waited. In the antechamber, the King of Keys skillfully picked the lock on the metal grate and moved toward the backside, while the monster propped the grate open using 2 paint cans he had found in the storeroom. The responsibility of disabling the remaining security system now rested with the monster. Following his practiced routine from the warehouse, he took precisely 11 steps into the center of the room, reached for the ceiling and pushed back the panel to expose the circuit. His fingers located the security system's main inbound and outbound wires. An automatic electric pulse continuously traveled into the room and back out through these wires. If any of the sensors were triggered, the circuit would be disrupted. Each time a pulse entered the room, it anticipated a response. Failing to receive one would trigger the alarm. With his hands raised above his head, the monster used a tool to strip the plastic coating from the wires. Once the copper wires were exposed, he attached a new, pre-cut piece of wire between the inbound and outbound cables. This bridge effectively rerouted the incoming electric pulse to the outbound wire, bypassing the sensors. The monster successfully circumvented the vault security system's main inbound and outbound wires, making the vault safe for the others to enter. Still, the men remained cautious. They neutralized the seismic sensor with a styrofoam box and covered the light detector with tape before beginning their work. The King of Keys unloaded a homemade hand-cranked drill equipped with a thin metal shaft. He inserted the shaft into one of the locks and cranked it for about 3 minutes until the lock broke, snapping open the first box. The crew took turns extracting the contents. Having memorized the vault's layout, they worked in the dark, turning on their flashlights only for split-second bursts, just long enough to position the drill over the next box. Meanwhile, their bags filled up with gold bars, diamonds, jewelry, and millions of dollars in various foreign currencies. By 5:30 a.m., they had opened 109 out of 160 boxes, and decided it was time to leave before the streets began to fill with people. Additionally, they needed to transfer the duffel bags into Notarbartolo's car. It took almost an hour for the team to haul the bags upstairs, maneuver past the infrared sensor, lower the loot down the ladder, and navigate through the abandoned office building to Notarbartolo's car. They crammed the bags into the car, slammed the doors shut, and drove off, all without firing a single shot or triggering an alarm. While the heist itself was squeaky clean, their runaway was not. They had worn plastic gloves throughout the heist, ensuring no DNA evidence was left inside the vault. However, they needed to burn those gloves along with any other incriminating evidence that could link them back to the heist. The team met at the rendezvous point, which was Notarbartolo's apartment. There they split the loot and went their separate ways. Speedy and Notarbartolo went straight to the warehouse, meticulously clearing everything and wiping their fingerprints from the site. They packed all the evidence into a trash bag and began their drive. Shortly afterward, they found themselves on the E19 highway departing Antwerp. It was 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, and Notarbartolo had settled in for the 10-hour drive back to Turin. He planned to stop in France to burn the evidence, thereby erasing any trace of their involvement in the crime. However, Speedy was having trouble. The setup was more than he could take. The typically nervous Speedy spiraled into full-blown panic mode. Unable to continue with the bag of evidence in the car, he urged Notarbartolo to pull off onto a secluded country road. "It's perfect," he declared. Notarbartolo, albeit reluctantly, agreed and stepped out of the car to inspect the location. Upon his return, Notarbartolo discovered Speedy in a full-blown panic attack. He was surrounded by scattered trash, currency, and small diamond stones glistening in the mud. Enraged, Notarbartolo orders Speedy to calm down and get back inside the car. He made the swift decision to dump everything, convinced that no one would find it in such a remote location, and then drove off. In the subsequent weeks, a local farmer stumbled upon the discarded trash, initially dismissing it as the work of reckless youngsters littering on his property. However, as he uncovered more bundles of trash, his frustration mounted, prompting him to call the police. When he reported finding an envelope from the Diamond Center among the refuse, the police immediately took interest in this seemingly random pile of trash. The discovery of an invoice for a low-light surveillance system with Notar Bartolo's name on it, along with DNA evidence from a fragment of a salami sandwich, proved crucial. These pieces of evidence implicated Notar Bartolo as the mastermind behind the sophisticated vault heist. However, the Belgian authorities had to wait patiently for Notar Bartolo to return back to the Antwerp Diamond District, as Belgium didn't have an extradition treaty with Italy. Compounding the situation was the complete lack of reports or news coverage regarding the heist, prompting Notar Bartolo into believing that the district authorities were more concerned with protecting their reputation rather than pursuing him. It's also possible that the insurance companies were behind the silence, hoping to avoid the burden of large payouts. Also, from the beginning, Notar Bartolo's plan was to head back to the Diamond District and resume working as if nothing had happened, to avoid raising any suspicion. The rental car was due back in Antwerp the next day. He always intended to return it and make an appearance at the Diamond Center. This strategy was designed to ensure that if the police were searching for tenants who had disappeared, he wouldn't be on their list. It would also give him the opportunity to clean his apartment more thoroughly. The detectives working the case wondered whether they'd ever catch the thieves, who could have been anywhere by now. It never occurred to them that one of the robbers would walk right back into the district, but that's exactly what Notar Bartolo did. The following day, he nonchalantly entered the Diamond District to collect his mail. The guard knew that the police were investigating Notar Bartolo and phoned the building manager, who immediately called the detectives. Notar Bartolo, along with his wife, was apprehended and taken into custody. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Today, Notar Bartolo is a free man, having been granted early release on parole, though he remains under constant scrutiny. He has never revealed the real names of his accomplices, and to this day, their identities remain a mystery. The Antwerp diamond heist is more than just a story about stolen diamonds. It's a narrative woven with human ambition and ingenuity, a testament to the perpetual dance between those who seek to protect and those who seek to take. If you enjoyed watching this video, do consider subscribing to our channel, History Mystery, as it helps us create high-quality videos. Until next time.